This lesson is going to combine one-step and two-step inequalities. So this is section 3.2 and 3.3. You're going to solve inequalities just like you solved equations. So I'm going to draw my wall through my inequality symbol. And again, I'm trying to solve for x, so I'm trying to move stuff away from x. So to move minus 14, I'm going to add 14 to both sides. Then I'm going to bring down my x. Minus 14 plus 14 cancels. Bring down my less than symbol. And then negative 8 plus 14 is 6. X is already by itself. This is just a one step. So this is my solution to that inequality. X is less than 6. And then I'm going to graph this solution. So you're going to draw a number line on your paper. And on your number line, you don't have to put a bunch of numbers. I'm just going to put on mine 0, 6, and negative 6. And then I'm going to graph it. So I need to put my circle at 6. I want it to be an open circle because it's not including it. And then less than would be to the left. And it's also the same way my inequality symbol is facing. Okay? Next, example B. So I want to solve this for x. Notice that my 6 and my x are squeezed together. If they're squeezed together, that means multiplication. So to cancel multiplication, I need to divide by the number squeezed with my x. So when I do that on the left, negative 72 divided by 6 is negative 12. Bring down my symbol, less than or equal to, and then I have x. And then I'm going to rewrite that with my variable on the left. Notice I was eating the x above, so I need to eat the x here. And then I'm going to graph on my number line that solution. The solution to that inequality was x is greater than or equal to negative 12. So I'm going to put a 0. Negative 12 would go to the left. Positive 12 would be to the right. And then I'm going to do this one at negative 12 is a closed circle because it's also equal to. And this is greater than. Notice my symbol is facing to the right, so I'm shading to the right. And again, you can only follow which way your inequality symbol is pointing if your variable is on the left. That's the key. Now we're going to look at two-step equations. So once again, I'm going to draw my wall where my symbol is, and I'm trying to solve for x. Remember this 3/4 right here that's squeezed to it? You deal with it last. So you need to take your plus 24 to the other side by subtracting 24. Do the opposite of plus or adding, which is subtracting. And then I'm going to bring down my 3/4 x. Plus 24 minus 24 cancels. Bring down my greater than symbol, and then 18 minus 24 would be negative 6. Then to cancel out this fraction, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, or you could do divided by 3/4 if you wanted. So I'm going to multiply by 4/3 on both sides, and that means 4s are going to cancel top and bottom. 3s are going to cancel top and bottom. So I'm left with 1x is greater than, and then I'm going to make this a fraction here. And when I multiply these, multiply across the top, multiply across the bottom, that's negative 24 over 3. And negative 24 divided by 3 simplifies to a negative 8. You also could have reduced. So 3 goes into itself once, and it goes into 6 2 times. And I got to keep that negative with it. And then when I multiply, I get negative 8 over 1, which is negative 8. There's my solution. X is already on the left. So now I'm going to graph it. I'm going to put 0 in the middle. I'm going to put negative 8 on the left. And I'm going to put positive 8. So again, you don't need to put a bunch of numbers on your number line. My circle is going to go at negative 8, and it's going to be open because it's not also equal. It's not including it. And greater than means I need to shade to the right. Next one. I'm going to draw in my wall here. Notice that my 9 is squeezed to my x, so I deal with it last. I need to move this negative 15 first. So to cancel negative 15, I'm going to add 15 on both sides. Negative 15 and positive 15 cancels. Bring down your 9x. Bring down your less than or equal to symbol, and 15 plus 15 is 30. Now, to solve for x, 9 and x are squeezed. That's multiplication. To cancel, I divide. So I'm going to divide by 9 on both sides. So I get x is less than or equal to. And if you do 30 divided by 9 on your calculator, you would get out a decimal. We don't want to write a decimal, so we're going to bring it down as is. And then before you circle that answer, you're just going to check and see, can you simplify 30 over 9? Is there a number that goes into both? Yes, 3 goes into both. So we're going to divide top and bottom by 3. So I get 10 over 3. So x is less than or equal to 10 over 3. And now we're going to graph this. So I'm going to put 0 on my graph. Now, 10 over 3 is a fraction. And reminder, a number line only has integers on it. And an integer is not a fraction or a decimal. So I need to write down the two integers that 10 over 3 sits between. So 10 over 3, if I did that on my calculator, 10 divided by 3, or if I wrote it as a mixed number, it would be 3 1/3, or 3.3 repeating. So the question is, what two integers does 3 1/3, or 3.3 repeating, sit between? It's going to sit between 3, and it's going to sit between 3 and 4. So on my number line, I'm going to put 3 down and 4 down. And then I'll just do the same thing. I'll just mirror it over here. -3 and -4. Do not put fractions or decimals on your number line, only integers. So I'm going to put my circle, and I'm just going to put it to where I think 3 1/3 is. I'm going to put a closed circle at that 3.3 spot because it's including it. And then it's less than, so I'm going to be shading to the left. Now, what we're going to look at is what happens when you multiply or divide by a negative number. So on your notes, you can just write the word multiply, divide by a negative. So let's just point out the key words. If you multiply or divide by a negative on both sides, then you're going to flip your inequality symbol. Flip your inequality symbol or reverse it. So if it was less than, it's going to become greater than. Okay, so let's look at this example. So I'm going to draw in my wall. To solve for x, this -8 is squeezed. And what some of you want to do is you want to add 8. No, that does not cancel it because I'm not subtracting 8 from x. I am multiplying that -8 to x. So to cancel, I need to divide by -8 on both sides. And so this is the key. If you're dividing by a negative on both sides, you have to flip your symbol. So my symbol now becomes that. And then I have x, and 8 divided by -8 is -1. And there's my solution. And we're not going to graph this one because we graphed on the first 4. Okay, so here. Draw in my wall. This -2/7 is squeezed to my x, so to cancel that fraction, I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal, so -7 over 2 on both sides. -7 over 2. Okay, and I should look at this. I'm multiplying by a negative on both sides, so my symbol needs to flip. I need to flip that symbol. And here, 7s are going to cancel top and bottom. 2s are going to cancel top and bottom. And a negative times a negative is a positive 1, which is what we wanted. We wanted a positive 1x. And then here, I'm going to simplify this. So I can cancel out here. 2 goes into itself once and into 12 6 times. And I'm going to bring that negative up. And now I can just multiply across. -6 times -7 is a positive 42. Over 1 times 1 is 1, and I don't have to put a 1 on the bottom. I can stop right there, and there is my solution to that inequality. X is less than 42. Okay, same idea. Draw in my wall here. I want to solve for x. First thing I need to move is this 15. That 15 is positive, so to get rid of it, I need to subtract 15 on both sides. Then we're going to work left to right. -32 minus 15 is -47. Bring down the symbol, and then bring down your negative in front of your x. Reminder, if you have a negative in front of your x, that's a -1. So to solve, I have to divide by -1 on both sides. That should be my red flag. I'm dividing by a negative on both sides. I need to flip my inequality symbol. -47 divided by -1 is +47, and this gives me x. And then I'm going to rewrite it with my variable on the left. And there's my final answer. The solution would be x is greater than or equal to 47. Last one like this. First thing I need to move is this 5. And I'm going to do that by subtracting 5 on both sides. 5 minus 5 cancels. Bring down -6x is less than 9 minus 5 is 4. Then I'm going to divide by -6 on both sides. Again, that should be my red flag. I'm dividing by a negative on both sides, so I need to flip my symbol. And this becomes x. And then if you do that on your calculator, 4 divided by -6, you're going to get out a negative, and you're going to get a decimal. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to bring it down as is, because we're not going to write the decimal down. Just remember that negative, you can just move it to the top. That's all I did there. Positive divided by a negative is a negative, so I'm going to move it to the top. Before I circle that, I just need to make sure that there are no numbers that go into 4 and 6, which there is. You can simplify this fraction by 2. So this is going to become -2/3. And then I'm just going to rewrite the rest. And that is the solution to the inequality. Okay, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to write an inequality for each sentence or situation below, and then we're going to solve it. So we have 4 times a number is no more than 3 times that number plus 8. So I'm going to let my number be in. And then I'm going to work left to right. So 4 times n, I would write as 4n, is no more than, so that's a less than symbol, is no more than 3 times n, which is 3n, plus 8. And now I'm going to solve this. So I have variables on both sides of the wall. I can't just combine them together. I need to move one. I always move my smallest. So to move 3n, I'm going to subtract. And I'm subtracting not just 3, I'm subtracting that whole term, 3n. Drawing my line. 4n minus 3n, those are like terms, so I can do that. 4n minus 3n is 1n, and I don't have to write the 1. Bring down my less than symbol, and then I'm going to bring down my 8. Nothing left to do to solve. There's my solution. Next example, we have 7 times a number, I'm going to let my number be n, is greater than 6 times that number, that's my n, minus 2. So we're going to work left to right. So 7 times n would be 7n, is greater than, looks like this, 6 times n, which is 6n, minus 2. And then I'm going to solve. Again, I have variables on both sides of the wall. I need to get them on the same side. So I'm going to move my smallest one, my 6n, to the other side. I do that. It's positive by subtracting 6n. I'm subtracting all of it. And I'm going to work left to right. 7n minus 6n, those are like terms, so I can subtract those. That gives me 1n is greater than -2. There's nothing left to do to solve for n. There's my solution. Okay, here's the last one. This one's kind of hard to read. It got messed up. But Alicia wants to buy season passes to 2 theme parks. If one season pass costs $54.99 and Alicia has $100 to spend on both passes, the second season pass must cost no more than what amount? So we're trying to figure out what's the cost of that second season pass. What's the most that it can be? So let's let S equal our second season pass. And then here are the other 2 numbers we had in this word problem. We had $54.99 and we have 100. Okay, so 100 is the maximum amount that she can spend. She has already spent $54.99 plus the second season pass, whatever that's going to be, can be no more than $100. So these two together cannot be more than 100, but it could be equal to because she does have 100. And then we're going to solve. So I'm going to draw on my wall. I need to take $54.99 to the other side. So I'm going to subtract $54.99 on both sides. And so my second season pass has to be, what is it, 4501, less than or equal to 4501? Is that right? Yes. Second season pass has to be less than or equal to $45.01. That concludes one-step and two-step inequalities.